Yeah, I'm Micah. I wrote a book and self-published it, and it did pretty well on Amazon. Bam, I'll put it right there. I also publish a anthology every year, a horror anthology with a bunch of awesome authors, and it does really well, and it's all for charity. And now I help other people publish books, new authors getting into the self-publishing sphere. I help them do that, and every Friday I get to kick it with my girl and talk about all the awesome things. I like long walks on the beach, and I am 25 years old. Your turn. Go, go, go. We got 2 minutes for an intro.
Okay, Chelsea here. I write books. I like to write dark epic fantasy. I show up on a couple of the anthologies Micah has done. Hopefully this year again. Let's just be honest. I have written The Blood of the Lion, The Mark of the Dam, The Dance of Destiny. Now, The Scars of the Wicked is coming out here. I am just hoping that it all works out. So that being said, I've done a few short stories. I have written a dark kids book that is, I'm not sure if it's kids friendly, let's be honest.
Oh, it's great. It's very kids friendly.
Yeah.
Very
kids friendly. I am a coffee addict and will find any way to drink my coffee. And I like music. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Bad as this.
Well, how freaking bad is this? Is when I was in my EMT course, I would literally stop and get a Carl's Jr. on the way because that was normalized. And now, looking back, I cringe because I must have looked like I must have been a walking contradiction.
Oh yeah,
we're talking about cardiovascular health and spinal injuries and stuff, and I'm over here eating a Carl's Jr. burger, and I'm like, ugh.
Well, like you said, that's just how that's just America, man.
Exactly.
That was my diet, and for forever it was like I'm hungry, I'm gonna go get a burger. I'm hungry at night. I'm gonna swing by and get some Taco Bell on the way home. It's like, oh my gosh, can you imagine how much garbage we have put in our bodies over the years? I mean, and I've got twice the time on this earth as you do. So it's like I put twice the amount of crap in my body that you have put in yours.
It is freaking terrifying when you start looking at the ingredients and just the chemicals and the additives.
If you can call them ingredients. Yeah, you can't call them ingredients. You call them
chemicals and additives that are put into the majority of food that we were normalized and told to eat.
Right.
That's what terrifies me.
Right.
I'm like, holy crap. Like, these have long-term impacts on your body, on your genes, on like everything.
Right.
I mean, I was reading something and I've seen this a lot lately because a lot more awareness is coming, but people that go overseas to Europe and eat a bunch of breads and carbs and stuff that, and they lose weight.
Correct. Right.
And I'm like, bro, I couldn't eat 2 pizzas a week without putting on 10 pounds.
Right.
Like, what are they putting in that?
It's because of the ingredients that they're made with.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Joe Rogan, he has all his like flours and pastas and things like that. He has those shipped in from overseas because like the stuff here is just toxic.
God, and the flour.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The flour. I can't remember the hopefully we don't get a lawsuit for mentioning them.
Yeah.
Because they're so big, but we won't. Everybody knows about them. Anyways, they put chemicals all in their soil. So the American flour, and it is extremely bad flour for you. It's like you don't want it.
It's so bad. Like the amount of poison we've done to ourselves just as Americans, and I don't know. We obviously haven't done the history. We don't do any research here anymore. We just
no planning,
right? No planning. We just talk. So this is off the cuff, but you have to understand that, like how much. And I don't know when it started. Probably when it started being mass produced and things like that. Obviously,
yeah. I mean, the TV dinner spike.
Oh
in the 70s. I mean, that was.
So last week I had a high blood pressure spike, which I've never. In my life, even in my unhealthy times and my anxiety times, I have never in my life had high blood pressure. It's always been 120 over 80, but usually like 117 over 77.
Yeah.
That's and my resting blood or my resting heart rate is like 57. Yeah, I mean it's pretty good, right? Yeah, so it's pretty good. It's gone so way down since I've been dieting and stuff. But anyways, last week again, more stress, more stress with all the things behind the scenes and with the with work changing and all that stuff, more stress. Dude, it spiked to 171 over
Oh
96.
shit. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
I was like, what? Because like, so I felt it in my body, and I'm like, I know I'm eating healthy, and I know I'm feeling like everything's firing on all cylinders. I think we talked about this last week, but I had a blood test the other day, and every number in the blood test was perfect,
Oh
like
wow.
every
Okay.
number, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm like I'm in almost peak perfect health. I still have some pounds to lose, like to be considered great health, but like overall everything's pretty good. Uh, why do I feel like crap? So I stopped by a kiosk, I think it was like CVS or whatever, right? Stuck my arm in it, checked it out, and it was like 171 over
Oh
96.
my
So then I Googled, I was like, what is bad high blood pressure? And they're like, well, you're gonna have a stroke if it's 180 over 120 or something like that.
god.
I
Oh
was
my
like,
god.
oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Like I'm 9 points away from having a stroke. Awesome. That's good." So, call the doctor. I was like, "Hey, can I get in? Cuz we need to look at this and see what's going on." So, yeah, we looked at it, and obviously he ran blood again, and everything was perfect. He's like, "Dude, you're 100% normal. We've checked your heart like back when you got the tick bite, a few years ago. You had a heart like a horse." He's like, "Man, this is anxiety. This is like, but like it's that subconscious like physiological reaction anxiety, right? So it's not like anything that's conscious, and anything that I'm saying, oh, I'm worried, boom, it spikes.
Yeah.
It's just subconscious physiological, the fight or flight, the chemicals, the adrenaline, the cortisol, bam, 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 and it just shot my blood pressure up. Yeah, I was like, "Holy
Holy
cow, dude,
crap.
that's." And it hasn't gone back to normal yet. It's been
It
like a week. It's close. It's hovering like 131 over 80 or 131
glucose
over
does that too.
77. So it's real close.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
takes a
eh,
while.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I'm shocked it's taking this long to go down. But the nurse said, she's like, "Hey, it can take a few weeks. Just
It's
So,
eerie.
anyway, my whole point in saying that to bore all of our 38 listeners now. We're not 35 anymore. 38, three
Yay!
subs. What's up? We are taking over the world. But not to bore all 38 listeners, but the one thing that because I'm always very intentional with my
Yeah.
things, right? So like I'm like, if I'm gonna watch, I'm not gonna ignore this crap, right? I got
No.
babies, plus I like my life. I don't want to die. So, and I don't want to stroke out and only have one hand. I don't want to do that.
Uh,
So, I don't want to talk out of one side of my mouth. That's not something I want to do. So I started looking at salt intake, and the average American, they should get no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day, right? And I was like, holy crap, that sounds like a lot. So I started looking into sodium.
bro.
Dude,
Yeah.
goodness gracious, the amount of sodium. Like, okay, I thought I was being healthy, so I was having a little bit of sausage, right?
Yeah.
Just some protein. It wasn't lean protein, right? Because like normally, like over the last like I don't know month and a half, I've been like brown rice, chicken, fish, spinach. Like I told you that I've been eating super clean, and it's great until you get an urge, and you just have a little bit of something, and you're back to
Got
normal.
to. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, there's some summer sausage. Cool, I'll just have some of that protein. No big deal.
Bro.
Looked at it, dude. Like 950 milligrams of salt in a single serving, which was like 2 ounces. 2 ounces, 950 milligrams. What? Okay, Amanda was gonna make some homemade chicken soup, right?
Yeah.
So she had everything ready, and she had bought some chicken stock. And I was like, you know what? I might not eat that tonight. I might just eat the chicken. She's like, why? I was like, well, go ahead and make what you want to make. I'll pull some chicken out and I'll just eat that. I was like, I'm afraid of that sodium. She's like, well, go check the can. Go check the can and see. Per serving, 1,480 milligrams
And
of
those
salt.
servings are like half a cup.
Yeah. Yeah. So per serving, 1,480 milligrams. Holy cow. I was like, so I'm trying to stay below 1,000 milligrams a day, which is really low.
That's
But
really low.
yeah,
But I've heard conflicting things where you need salt.
you do need salt. The body does need salt. So
Yeah.
the 1,000 milligrams
So it's like
is
a
where
weird.
that's like how much you need.
Yeah.
How much you need is 1,000. How much you should not go over is
It's
2,300.
23.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
but with that blood pressure spike,
You're
it's
just
like
like,
I'm not hitting that 2,300. Ain't no need for that. I'm hitting 1,000, and we're gonna get that back under control because all my other numbers are good, and get healthy and get on with it.
well, and so blood pressure and glucose levels are kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
The
Yes.
closest thing I can relate that to is when I took that cybersecurity exam back in October.
Uh huh.
I was really good. My level, I was wearing the glucose monitor, and so I was watching it. And the night before, great. The morning of, I had a spike, and my normal levels were sitting around, I would say 101.
Okay.
Like waking up, because you glucose kind of rises in the
Right.
morning. It's very natural. So wake up is about 101,
Yeah.
and which is very, very healthy.
It's
But
very good. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and that was after, lifestyle changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But by the time I was on my way to the testing center and I checked in and I was waiting to take my test, I was sitting at 138, which 140 is the max, right? Where
Right.
they say
Right.
you're going outside the normal
Right.
range.
Right.
And
So, had you eaten anything with simple carbs? Had you eaten anything?
I had two scrambled eggs with no salt, pepper, nothing, just something to put in my system.
Yeah. So that wouldn't spike it at all.
No, not at all. This was all stress
Wow.
related.
I didn't know stress and
Stress has a
cortisol and adrenaline.
massive
I didn't know
impact.
that could spike glucose.
And by the time I was out, I had a glucose spike registered by the time I was out of the exam, because the spikes are registered by how quickly the numbers go up in a short
Okay.
amount of time frame, like 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
And so by the time I was sitting down for my exam, I had a spike. I had a spike registered.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting, it took me up a week to get my numbers back to normal. That's how, because cortisol was sitting in my body, and cortisol was
Crazy.
impacting how my glycogen was
Yeah.
stored and digested by
Yeah.
the molecules and the cells. So it was,
Crazy.
yeah, that's like, it's very, very fascinating, and it's very eye-opening because
Yeah.
stress like that, it has a massive impact. I mean, high
Right.
glucose levels cause inflammation, joint pain,
Right. Right.
fogginess, lack of less
Yeah.
quality sleep.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and then obviously high blood pressure, I mean,
Yeah.
does the same thing
Oh,
where
everything.
it's just like,
Well, and so
yeah,
and they say if you have a maintained high blood pressure, which
yeah,
of course, again, like I said, mine is so low you could almost call it normal, but I'm not going to
yeah,
call it normal till it's
till it's
some
normal.
people now are saying 130/80 is the
Yeah,
accepted.
as the world American health goes downhill.
Exactly. So yeah, we're not doing that. I want to get back down to my 177 over 70 or
Absolutely.
117 over 77. That's where I want to be. So like I was reading that because the one place that I haven't lost my weight yet are my titties and my tummy, right? Because that's just the last place for guys to lose weight.
Girls too, tummies, man, they're freaking that lower area.
That lower part.
Yeah,
it's just hanging on. But I was reading that's where cortisol likes to hang out.
Yes.
Yeah, is right down there.
Yes.
So like that is a whole. It's so the body is just fascinating,
right?
Like it is so fascinating. And as I'm getting older and as I'm getting so much more health conscious, it's like, my gosh, what did I do to my body all these years? Had I had this understanding and this intention to be healthy, man, I'd be climbing Everest right now and not just trying to, get healthy enough to stay alive, right? It's like, it's terrible. It's sad.
It is. It's very eye-opening to see just the increased awareness in our culture about health, what you're putting in your body, cortisol, the stress, all of that. The day-to-day, right? I mean, if you look at generationally, it was normal. It was normalized to be stressed about your position, title, work. I mean, it was go, 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 go.
Right.
And then you had the introduction to the TV dinners because it was easier that way. So women could go to work because they could increase the work production value for the companies. I mean, there's a whole intricate.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of complexities to it. It's very fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
And in doing so, we've increased the stress levels across the entire nation.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was normalized to chase the American dream.
Right. And I would have to assume that the stress levels are because of, the food and how it became mass produced, and
Right.
it's got to last longer, so there's got to be more additives, and there's got to be more salt, there's got to be all this stuff because it's got to last longer, and just it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs.
It
Whereas
does.
yes, people back in history, our fathers, grandfathers, great grandfathers, all the way down the line, they were eating obviously much less and much more naturally.
Yep.
So even though I would have to say that legitimately back in the past they had many more things to be actually legitimately stressed about.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right. So much more exterior stressors back then, but the interior was so much more whole that, that's just, again, we haven't done any research on this, but that's just my thought.
No, I completely agree. I think
Yeah.
the type of external factors,
Yeah.
and I also think you hit something interesting where it's like the type of food you're putting in your body, does that increase or have a chemical reaction with cortisol in your body? And does
I'd
that
have to think
increase
so.
the
You'd have to
cortisol?
think so. Yeah.
Right? And then everything is a feedback cycle and it's just
Right.
constant, So yeah.
Right.
Anyways, for our 38 listeners, you have
Yes.
been introduced to a wide variety of chaos right in this
Yes.
beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
This
So
is a show or a whatever. This is a conversation between two authors, mostly about writing. But I find it cathartic and relaxing and enjoyable to have a simple conversation with a friend. I also like to listen to simple conversations with friends. That's the most of the podcasts that I listen to. I found myself, unless there's a topic I'm super interested in and I
right.
seek it out, I really like the topics where it's just conversations.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like if I want to learn something, yes, I'll seek it out and whatever. But normally it's like I listen to podcasts to relax,
Yes.
to enjoy, to be entertained, or to just have that kind of maybe, oh, they're where I'm at. They're feeling what I'm feeling, or they're doing what I'm doing. They're normal too. Oh, hey, everybody's so yeah. So apologies for the randomness of
That was
our
so unplanned.
yeah, our D20 rolls sometimes, and it'll land on a natural 1, sometimes it'll land on a natural 20. We just don't know. So,
That was
who
so
knows? Who knows where
random.
it's going to
I'm
go?
all for it though. I'm all
Yeah,
for it.
exactly. Yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, writing, you're done. Yeah, book 4 is done. It is out of your hands. It is out of your hands.
Oh god, it's with my editor now. It's doing the line copy edit phase, and I'll
So you
see.
will get it back.
Oh yeah, I'll see
Okay.
it.
Well, from your text the other day, I thought you had meant that it was gone. Like you are not touching it again. But no, okay.
That's how I feel about development edits. It's a
Gotcha.
very
Okay.
traumatic experience for me all the way
Yes.
through. And so my
Yes.
text message was probably extremely exaggerated.
Gotcha. Yeah. You're right. Life is over. I'm gonna die.
It is like, because development edits, when you're working on a beast that big, it is just
Right.
so many layers. And you're like,
Yeah.
even if it's not a very intensive development edit, because like I
Right.
had said, the comments were really positive. It was just, it's such a big manuscript and it
Yeah.
takes time.
Yeah.
And
Let
it's,
me ask
yeah,
you.
talk to me, goose.
You may not know how to answer this because you don't have the same writing style as me. And okay, here's my question. You are a pro at this point of large manuscripts. Okay.
I don't know.
No, we'll say that because you've done 4 of them. You're working on a 5th. You've got other projects. You are a pro at large manuscripts. So this is obviously my first large manuscript that I'm working on.
Okay.
How do you organize chapters when you get into that kind of depth? Okay, so like I have right now, what I'll do is I'll write in Google Drive.
Yeah.
I don't keep it there. I put it over into Word, of course, but I'll write in Google Drive, and I have chapters. So I have a folder that's mine. In there, there's chapters. So it goes prologue, chapter 1, all the way down to I've got like
You have
38
separate
chapters.
folders for each chapter?
No, one folder, and then in that folder are all the
documents.
yes, yeah. So I have a separate document for each chapter.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that I can bounce back and forth and not have to scroll and find my place. It's like, oh, that's in chapter. So I don't know. That works for me. I think that's kind of cool. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is handicapping me, which is going into my question. I can't see how though, but let me just So so when you're writing large pieces of work, so I'm on like chapter 6 right now. But again, chapter 6, and it's like, I don't know, like 40,000, 50,000 words in 6 chapters. The chapters are long,
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So how do you go about, like, say you've taken 2 or 3 days off, right? How do you go about getting back into that flow without going back and reading 30,000 words? And then, that's the trouble I'm having now that I'm getting so in deep with it.
Getting deeper and
Yeah,
having
getting
and
deeper,
the intricate details that are starting
right.
to stack
Having
up.
to refresh myself because
Yeah.
I just don't have the time. I'm working 2 jobs. I've got 3 kids. I've got a wife. There's just not a lot of time. So when I get the time, I spend the first probably 30 minutes going back and like reading up, seeing where I'm at, what the feel was, what the vibe was, where I want to go. Should I just go from where the cursor is blinking and start right there and not go back and reread anything?
So, several things. When I write my big manuscripts, I have 3 POVs.
Mhm.
And so I separate those POVs in
Yeah.
different Word
Which I
documents.
thought that was crazy when you told me that. That's wild to me. Yeah, that's crazy.
I have to because
Yeah.
they're very distinct tones.
Yeah.
And if I'm jumping from Morai, who's vengeful and angry and spiraling, and he's kind of getting sicker and sicker,
Yeah.
to Cyrus, who is on a dragon rider adventure and is trying
Right.
to find the answers. I mean,
Yeah.
very, very different tones.
It'd be very difficult to bounce back and
Yeah,
forth like
to
that.
be
Yeah.
like, finish this Morai chapter and jump right into Cyrus, I'd be like, oh my gosh. And
Right.
mind you, when I did The Blood of the Lion, I did that. And for me, that was the biggest mistake I ever did.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
cost me a massive amount of rewriting.
Wow. Yeah.
So I keep those documents separate. Now, I don't separate my chapters. I don't, because like for my POVs, it's 17 to 20 chapters each.
Yeah.
And so I list them out and I do a really rough outline because it's
Right.
kind of a mixture of a pantser and a planner.
Right.
And I know, like, okay, I really want them to end at this point, and I really want this specific scene. So maybe it's going to happen in about chapter 11. I kind of throw ideas down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I build from that on that one document for Cyrus. So
Yeah.
all his chapters are right there. And then I
Yeah.
do the same thing for Morai and Syra. When it comes to getting deeper and deeper and deeper into these chapters where it's like, you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I have so
Yeah. Like,
many intricate
you've got
details.
19 chapters for one of the characters, and you're on chapter 13,
Right.
and you take 2 or 3 days off.
Right.
Then you come back and your cursor is blinking in the middle of chapter 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do?
I leave notes to myself. So
Okay.
if I'm in the Word document and now, mind you, my biggest pet peeve is not finishing a chapter when I'm writing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then you have to come back and be like,
Right.
okay, what was the tone? What was I doing?
Okay, so first of all, maybe that's your first answer. Maybe that's my first lesson.
Yeah.
Is
Always try to finish that chapter.
At least try to finish a chapter, because I
Or-
never finish a chapter because normally I don't have that long to write. Normally
Right.
I'll write like 2 or 3 pages.
Right.
And then be like, well, that's all the time I got. So
But if you can finish a scene and
Yeah.
get to that transition point, that's another great one.
Mhm.
Like, that's what I did with my project, the standalone I'm working on.
Yeah.
It was like Wednesday, or no, it was Tuesday maybe, because I didn't touch anything for 2 days. But it was like
Yeah.
Tuesday, and I was in the middle of chapter 1, and I stopped because it was a bigger chapter, and I was like, I can't freaking continue to write, dude. I'm like done.
Yeah.
But I got to a transition point where I knew that entire scene was pretty much wrapped up for what it could be at the time. And I knew the next point was going to work into the next part of the chapter.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then I leave a little note to myself. I highlight the comment, or I highlight the last sentence, right?
Yeah.
And then I just leave a little comment and I say, what do I want to happen?
Yeah.
And then if there's a specific detail where I'm like, this, I don't know, old tongue phrase is like critical to, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go hunting for it.
Right.
I just copy and paste right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I say, like, anything that was major happened that I know needs to come back up. I say, okay, because I'm still in the mindset, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, 4 pages ago, I brought up King Savine's of something, 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 and that
Yeah.
needs to come back up. I
Right.
just put it right there.
Right.
And so it kind of like, I like kind of just do a quick few sentences of
Yeah.
what has happened and what can't be forgotten,
Yeah.
as well as what I want or expect to happen.
Right. So see, that's yes. So those two are good, very good answers. So try not to end in the middle of a scene or a chapter, and whenever you do end, leave notes of
Oh
what you're leading
gosh.
up to. Yeah. So because what's so funny is I sat down to write last night, and the last time I had sat down to write, I had gotten some pretty good work done. We're doing epic fantasy again, right? So sometimes there's explanation that's needed, for histories and for backgrounds and things like this. So I went off on this huge tangent and created this whole other, this whole other race, that had, and so like there's this gigantic history now, and I'm going through the lineage and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Right. So all that just dumped out, and then I was like, I just, period. Man, that felt good. Save, dude, that was some work. That was great. 2 days later, come back, and I'm like, what? What happened? So I had to go back and reread the whole thing just to get an understanding. So by the time I got back to it, I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna do this. So because I stopped right, as soon as the inspiration left, I had gotten, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand words in. And I just felt good, and I got done. But really what I should have done is just like, bro, don't leave it hanging here.
Yeah, add a
Continue,
line or two.
finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Get
Yeah.
back, get out of this expository area and get back to what was happening so that, you're
Exactly.
not stuck. Yeah, yeah.
Because
So,
it's
but
that tone transition,
yeah,
It's like if you're in the mindset for that tone, like even if it's just a few more sentences to keep in that,
yeah.
add it.
Right,
And then you can
right.
come back and go, okay, I know what was happening.
Yeah. Or summarize where you're going with it, put it on a note or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, yeah.
comment section in my documents are my
Yeah.
best friends now.
Which I love that. The first time you told me that, I was like, that's genius. Yeah.
And I don't know why it took me years to figure it out. I was
Yeah.
like, holy crap. I always used to use my notebook, which I still use it. Pen
Yeah.
and paper. That's the
Love
best
it.
way to do it.
Love it. Right.
But man, it's like that comment section is quick, easy, it's referable. It's like I can add really quick details. I can make notes to myself. Like
Yeah.
I finished the standalone first chapter.
Yeah.
I left notes to myself
Yeah.
where I was like the pirates one that I'm telling you
Yeah.
about.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I left notes. I said, okay, quick, just a quick overall feeling of what my impression is having finished the first draft of this first chapter
Okay.
is
Cool. Yeah.
this. And what
Yeah.
I'd like to see more is this.
Yeah.
And then, or connect this point to this point because it feels a little bit choppy even
Yeah.
for me and I can tell,
Yeah.
And so that way when I come back to it after 90, 100,000 words,
Right.
I know it's not like I'm trying to remember this like vague detail where I was like, what did I think about that one
Right.
spot?
Right. And so see,
Yeah.
another thing that I do, and I break this rule because this is a rule that has been since, the dawn of time, that you don't go back and rework your work. You keep writing.
Oh,
We all know that. We all know that's a real rule. I break that all the time.
but if it works for you,
It works for me, but again, that's why I'm so slow with actually getting forward progress done, is because I'll go back and I'll rework 5,000 words and I'll get, 1,000 words done.
oh,
Yeah. So it's like I've got to find that
but your
medium.
editing process. So I'm gonna kind of go back to the Brandon Sanderson because I watched a few of his lectures.
Did you watch those? We need to talk about that too. Yeah. Yeah.
I would marry that man. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Brandon. I know you're married.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he talks about the pantser versus planner, right? And I'm gonna kind of relate that to you because the pantser spends most of their time on the editing side, but it
Right.
all balances out.
Yeah.
While the planner spends most of the time on the planning stage, but very less time on the editing stage,
Right.
that post stage, because
Right.
a lot of it was worked out during that planning stage in the actual writing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I kind of like relate that to you because you're putting a lot of that editing time,
Right.
more of the planning on your manuscript. And so
Right.
when you get to that post edit stage, I feel like it's all going to work out in your favor.
And you're probably right, because like if you go back and read the prologue and the first 3 chapters, Like there, and of course, obviously, there's going to be stuff missed, typos, and some line editing stuff. Obviously, because that's just going to happen. But if you go back, it's going to be real clean because I've
Right.
gone over it like 5 or 6 times.
Which is more than I can say before I hand a manuscript to my
Right,
editor.
right. Like every time for chapter 1, I sat down, I'd go back to the beginning of chapter 1,
Yeah.
reread it, and fix it as I'm reading it, and then when I got to the end, I'd be on my flow, and I'd keep going.
Right.
That's just what works for me. But now just getting deeper in, getting, I don't know, I don't know how long this book is going to be because I keep saying I want to get like 160,000 words to beat you, like 100, whatever it was, 160, whatever it
I
is.
would say 160 because after line edits,
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
see a good
So,
big
I would
check.
like to get 160, but if I'm on like chapter 6 and I've already got like, 40, 50,000 words,
Bro.
it's like, and I've got like 38 chapters
Are you
lined
thinking
out.
about, so here's a question though, like as you see it get bigger and bigger, would you split it up into a duology?
Well, I would actually, I've already planned a trilogy, but this is all just the first
So
of
you're
the
going to make a
trilogy.
6-book series then. So
Well, I just don't know because the ending is so perfect
critical.
for the first story, right?
Yeah.
Because it leaves it on a closure, but a cliffhanger, and it's brutal, but it's beautiful. Like it all, like I think I showed you like months ago, but I already have the last line of the book written.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
freaking awesome. Like it's so good. So like, yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know. It's going to be like a 700,000 page book.
Brandon Sanderson better get out of the way.
Right. So on the topic of Sanderson,
No,
so a couple
hold
years
on,
ago. Oh,
hold
okay.
on. What I was going to say is write the book.
Yeah.
Figure out the splitting, whatever. If you end up going down that road, figure it out later. The first part, write the book.
Yeah. That is the
Yeah.
thing. Is man, you just got really blurry.
I did. That's because I moved.
Yeah,
Hold
you
on.
moved, and it's so you come back. Put your hand on like on your nose.
Oh, on my nose?
Oh, there you go. Yep, you're good. Yep, you're back. Sweet, you're back. So y'all, if y'all are doing video recording, there's a little trick for you.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
yeah. Anyway, so no. Speaking of Sanderson, you said you're watching his lecture series, right? That he's doing this year. So
Yes.
it's crazy that you brought that up. I think you brought it up, I don't know, a couple days ago, maybe a week ago.
Somewhere.
I watched that, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. So apparently he does this every year at the school. And he does it for credit, which is awesome. The kids actually get credit to sit there and listen to him lecture on writing.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, if anyone is interested in actually getting, I'm talking like high level lectures on the ins and outs of writing, stuff you would pay big bucks for. I mean, these kids are paying college money for, but stuff you would pay thousands of dollars for. Sanderson is doing it for free because he's recording them all and putting them up on his YouTube channel. He did this a few years ago. I watched the entire series and I was blown away, incredibly blessed and inspired and educated and all these things. So yeah, 100% recommend you go check out Brandon Sanderson's YouTube page. I'll put it in the links. I mean, for our 38 listeners, who don't want to go look for it, you can click the link. I'll put it in the show notes. No big deal. I'm cool like that. But so how far along are you in the series? How many lectures have you watched?
Oh, I think I've only watched 3. It's very, very, very new. I watched, so last year he did stuff on world building, or the last semester, right, that he taught. And so he did a part 1, part 2 on the world building, and it was just phenomenally done.
Yeah.
So I had an author send me, Ivy Winter. She forwarded me a reel and said, check this out. And it was a clip of Brandon Sanderson doing a world building lecture. And or maybe not world building specifically, but it was one of his lectures. And I was kind of blown away because, one, please don't come from everybody. I've not read Brandon Sanderson. I have a book of his. I really want to, but I have not read properly in like a year, and it's really sad and pathetic.
No, and we've talked about this too, and I'm with you. I have not read properly in probably over a year. It's unreal. Where's the time? I don't have the time right now. I hate it. I always set books on my nightstand, to be read. And not talking to be read, but I'm talking like actively. Here's the book I'm going to actively read, and it hasn't happened forever. but seriously, like, I mean, obviously, I think the Way of the King, um, I think that's the one that everybody would aim you at first. It's his gigantic magnum
Oh yeah.
opus, like the monster. But I would honestly aim you towards the Mistborn series. It's a trilogy. Man, it's one of those ones where it kind of changed the game for me. I do prefer more story driven and more dialogue and exposition and things like this. I like all that because I like the world building. But the thing is, he does that, but he also includes a lot of action, which is
Yeah.
like, yeah, so you get that high fantasy action stuff, but you also get the exposition and the world building and the
Right.
character building,
And so
which is pretty
that's
great.
that's the thing, like, I really, really want to read it. I know that it's a huge commitment. Ivy and I talk all the time, and she always jokes, she's like, "When you have a big writing break, that's when you should binge the series."
Yeah.
Like, because she's doing the Stormlight Archives right now. And
Which I've
so
not. I do want to do those.
yeah,
Are those in the same universe as Mistborn? You
that
don't.
is
You wouldn't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I can't.
definitely.
I don't know if they are or not, but
But she
I
loves
really do
them.
want to read those. Yeah.
Yeah. So she sent it to me, and I had no idea that he did these lectures. And this was like 2 weeks ago. And I thought, wow, I really liked his narrative style and teaching, like the way he
Hmm.
spoke, his
Yeah.
joking. He was really engaging. And I'm the first to admit, and I told you this over text last weekend, I am the first to turn my nose up to writing lectures just
Yeah.
because they are super dry. They're super, this is the rules. You must follow the rules. If you don't, you will fail. Like that kind of
Right.
stuff. Very,
Right.
very intense. And I'm like, writing for me is very, and obviously writing, I mean, for you, the world, most writers, it's a very
Right.
creative process,
Right.
right? It's not,
Right.
please don't put me in a box. And so that's where I've turned my nose up. But when I watched that clip she sent me, I thought, wow, this is really good. I might have to actually check this out.
Yeah.
And so I checked it out, and then I binged the two world building
Yeah.
lectures. And
Yeah.
it was so cool. There were some things that I had done in the first 3 books of the Varillian saga that he kind of gave me a little bit of confirmation for,
Yeah.
just in the world building dynamics. And then I also learned new things too, where I thought, well, that's a really clever perspective that I think moving forward, even in the standalone project, I might try to
Yeah.
integrate a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so then his first lecture of the year, I believe it was
Yeah.
the plot, premise,
Which was
progress,
great. It was so good.
it was so good. I watched it while I was working out, split it up over 2 days, and it
Yeah.
was just like, I was like, this is just phenomenal,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
actually took his notes and I re-fleshed out certain things for the standalone,
Awesome.
you
Oh,
know.
that's so good.
And I was just like, because
That's
it
so
kind of gave me
good.
a bigger picture. And I was like, and
Right.
that's what he was talking about. It's like, this isn't for, he goes, even if you're a panster, he's like, no harm,
Right. Right.
He's like, but this helps. He's like, this is a way to get the overall tone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And something that's really stood out to me was when he said, and I think you can attest to this too, is when you get into writing those first couple of chapters, man, are they difficult to get into because you're kind of all over the place. You're trying
Right.
to get things down, you're trying to get the
Right.
tone, you're shifting directions, you're like trying to figure things out. And for me, that's where I get really stale
Yeah.
because I hesitate, I pause, I go back, I redraft, I don't move forward. And so this is
Right.
like the slowest part for me is getting those first couple of chapters down. And he was like, get it down and just move on. He's
Yeah.
like, because no matter what, he's like, you're going to come back and you're going to change them.
Right. Which kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier when I was asking you, how do you get out of those depths of when you have to go back and and my kind of Achilles heel is going back and editing and rewriting and as I go on, which we all know is a rule, but
Yeah.
it just kind of backs that or cements that idea of just keep writing, just
Just
keep.
get it out.
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah.
said once you get into, he goes, sometimes you won't even know all your promises that you're making until you get to the end.
Yeah.
And then you can get back into those first couple of chapters and redraft those and really reincorporate those promises so that they're all they're consistent all the way through.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but it was just like really fulfilling and kind of reaffirming for me because I thought I always try to get everything down. And I think every writer suffers from this is like, you have to get those first couple of chapters down and they have to be perfect, you
Right,
know?
right.
No,
Well,
they
and
don't.
to go back to what you're talking about, like just his lecture style, and normally you'll turn your nose up at writing lectures and things like that. I think that a lot of the reason he's so good, or we both tend to like him so much, is because he was legitimately a grounds up author, right? Starting from the bottom, working his way up, kind of thing, and that is, he hasn't lost that. So when
No.
he lectures, he doesn't lecture from up here.
Thank you.
He lectures down here at eye
He's
level,
so humble.
which okay. So here's the funny part: he's so humble, but he's also like arrogant.
He has the right.
Right, exactly. So he is arrogant in what he knows,
Yeah.
in what he's achieved and what he's accomplished. But that arrogant does not translate to being
No.
arrogant over you.
No,
Or yeah, that's what
exactly.
I love about it, because he's actually arrogant in a way. Because I love, I pretend I'm arrogant all the time, as a joke. So I love seeing that, but I love seeing him be confident and arrogant, but
Yeah.
also, like I said, he's not lecturing from up here; he's lecturing down here on an eye level, which
And
is so good.
it's I joke because he calls them the Sanderson laws.
Yeah, right,
You
right,
know? And it's like, yeah, you have the right to do that. You have experience. And I call it humbling because he will look like the Way of the Kings is brought up a lot in his lectures where he
yeah,
talks about, I think the Way of the Kings is the one of the 3 prologues, he
yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah,
right? He
yeah,
goes
yeah,
prologue, prequel, chapter 1's really a prologue.
right,
And which I think is so funny because he's like, I love how just humbling he is about his own writing experience where he's like, yeah, I tried to do this. Yeah,
right,
I did this.
right.
Yeah, this is, you know, okay, I should have done this different. I think it was in the Mistborn trilogy where he was talking about the multiple magic systems.
Yes,
Yeah, and he
yeah,
was like, he was talking about his personal experience as the writer, where he's like, I'm gonna have this on this and this and this, and he's like, and that was a little bit too much,
right, exactly, yeah.
which
No,
was
yeah,
super
he's
reaffirming.
great. Yeah, he's very down to earth, very, like I said, very eye level. Um, but he's earned a place,
He has,
and he's learned a lot. So it's
yeah.
like, dude, yeah. And the fact that he's giving us all of that information for free, man, that's cool right there.
Right. The one thing, and I'll be really honest here, is I always really struggle with my first book.
Hmm.
I know it's the debut. People love it. Obviously, the reviews speak for itself and say, okay, yeah, it's a really freaking good opener for a mega saga,
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I get very insecure about it because I know it's not my strongest work. I
yeah,
know it's considered a slower opening just because there's a lot of groundwork to lay out. But once you're in it, you're in it. And
right,
the people who read it are like, dude, this is freaking awesome, dude.
yeah,
But when I watched the lecture last weekend for the plot's progress and all of that, I was like, he really helped me with my confidence with book one
yeah,
because he talked about setting the stage and different openings. Like, I have what's considered a cold opening, and I didn't
yeah,
know that until last
yeah,
weekend.
yeah, yeah,
And I was like, "Oh, okay, so it's considered a cold opening." And then you're laying out all these promises, and some of these promises halfway through or when you get to the third act really start to shift.
yeah.
And there was just like a huge confidence booster for me where I was like, "Okay, it's a me problem with the insecurities I have for book
Right,
1."
right,
But cuz the readers say otherwise,
right.
but like hearing his perspective in his world, like in his words, what can and cannot work, especially when you're working with a big fantasy,
Yeah,
like it was really reaffirming to me, and
yeah.
it actually really helped my confidence
That's
a
awesome.
lot.
That's good. Well, and because I
Yeah.
know that you've told me the last couple weeks that the old imposter syndrome monster
Yeah.
had been creeping up. So
Yeah,
I'm
she's
glad that
ugly.
you got that confidence, you got that reaffirmation that you needed.
Yeah, it really helped. It kind of really put things in perspective for me where it was hearing his overall take on when you're working with big series like this,
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
like, I don't know. It was just like I had like an out of body experience. I'm like drenched in sweat and dying on the elliptical listening to him.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
just like, oh, it all makes so much sense now.
yeah. That's
Like,
awesome. It's so good.
yeah. So it was just like, thank you, Brandon Sanderson, for
Yeah,
getting me out of my head.
So if anybody that's listening, yeah, go check it out. It's highly worth it. And like I said, I know at least last year and the year before are up as well. So you can binge
Mhm.
them. It's really, really, really good stuff. Or
It's
if you
worth
want to
it.
start at this season, this season has been a season like it's a show. This semester again, he's teaching as a professor. He's lecturing students
Yeah.
at the school.
I
But
would pay big money to
yeah,
sit in that freaking
yeah,
classroom.
it's great. It's really, really good. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's so down to earth, and there's returning students that one of his students actually wrote and sold a book. So he praised that student, and everybody clapped, and so it's just a really cool thing to watch the progression, and yeah, and just to get some really good information for
I
free.
I love the down to earth because I think, and you and I've talked about this before, certain authors, when they get to a certain point, and we've seen it in the indie community too,
Yeah,
is like it's suddenly your stuff don't stink.
right, right,
And you are the god of gods. And
yeah,
and you see that with big time authors too.
right,
And that is where I really struggle,
yeah,
is because it's like, don't forget where you came from,
right.
you
Right.
know?
No, he always seems pretty down to earth. He also on his
Yeah.
YouTube channel was hilarious when Elden Ring came out.
Yeah.
He streamed himself playing it.
That's amazing.
Hilarious. I mean, like he's not a gaming channel. He's not making any money off this. He doesn't have because all his fans are authors, so not many people were watching it. But he's like, yeah, I'm gonna stream. I'm gonna stream myself playing Elden Ring because it's freaking awesome. I was like,
I
okay, that's
love that.
cool.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
that's awesome.
And it's interesting. He brought up, and I don't remember if it was. I think it was the new episode. The new episode. The new,
Right, right.
the lecture for this year. But he brought up how certain tropes and genres
Hmm.
certain tropes are absolutely expected,
Yeah,
and you can use those. He compares it to, what does he say? He says Dune and Lion King are basically the same thing. And I
yeah,
laughed my butt off
yeah,
because
yeah.
he's like the son who has everything stripped from him and is
Right.
trying to regain. He's got the evil uncle.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
like,
it's the same thing as Harry Potter and Star Wars. Like
exactly.
there was a GIF a while ago that actually put them like the pivotal scenes back to back. It was like a half hour, so I guess it wasn't a GIF, it was a video. It was like a half an hour because it put all the pivotal scenes back to back, and it was like, oh, that's the exact same story.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. So, and we talked about this a little while ago, how some tropes are absolutely necessary and expected in certain
exactly.
genres. So, i.e., therefore, E2, connect the dots, we are Brandon Sanderson. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Oh my gosh, Brandon, can I please come to your university?
Yeah, yeah. I'll lecture the crap out of some students. Let's freaking go, man. Let's
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I'll be a great lecturer. Out of the way, Sanderson.
Yesterday I was working because it's I'm very by myself when I do my task, right? I
Yeah,
don't have to be stuck on meetings.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
But what I do is I
Lucky you.
just I
Yeah,
just sit there and I put the audiobook in. And it
that's
was just
awesome.
like,
Yeah.
it was so good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
I've since I've been doing my my walking. I've been walking for like 6 months now
oh
or
yeah,
so.
because you're
Like,
doing that Conquer challenge.
I started the Conquer Challenge. Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Did I send you the? I took a screenshot. I hit my first goal, which is
You did
one
not
fifth
tell
of the
me
way
that.
through. Yeah, so they planted a tree for me. They sent me where they planted it and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, that's rad. So yeah, got my first tree planted. Got 20% through my first challenge. So
Oh my god, that's amazing.
yeah, pretty pumped. But yeah, I try to walk like 3 or 4 miles a day now because that is my audiobook time.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
and it's
so
like, man,
peaceful.
yeah, it just you get an hour and a half worth of audiobook and maybe put it on like speed like 1.2, so like it doesn't sound different, but it's going a little faster.
Yeah.
And you can get through a book, real easy.
I really enjoy audiobooks because they let me still read and enjoy the world
Yeah,
without because when I sit down to read a book, and like, for example, I'm reading a Japanese fantasy book that's been translated to English,
awesome.
and it's phenomenal. I love it. The world is incredible. Ivy Winter, she sent it to me for an Icelandic tradition for Christmas Eve.
It's not the
And
the Journey to the West, is it?
no, this is
Okay,
called
okay,
Official Heaven's Blessing.
okay.
And so I love it. But when I am trying to read at night, I don't read much anymore.
Right.
And that's very frustrating because at
Correct.
night it's like I get so tired
Right.
and it's like I get 2 pages in and I pass out. This
Same.
is a freaking 300-page book and it
Right.
has taken me weeks to get
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And I'm not even halfway.
Right.
Like, how
Yeah.
sad.
No, it's and we've talked about this before too, but like doing that with a monster book like The Way of the King or something, and then like smacking yourself in the face, like when you fall asleep,
Your nose? Oh
yeah,
my
yeah,
god.
how? What happened? Oh, okay. Well, I just fell asleep reading this tome of a book. But
Exactly.
no, I'm in the
Exactly.
same, but I'm in the same boat. Like I'll still read when I can, but I love the fact that audiobooks will allow me to continue to experience these authors and these stories, even if I
Yeah.
don't have the time.
And that's where, yeah, because I used to devour books, and it's
Oh yeah,
just like,
you
I mean,
same.
early 2024, I was still reading pretty heavily, where it
Wow.
was just
Yeah.
like, I mean, the first few months I was just binging books back to
Yeah.
back to back. Late 23, early 24, and then I don't know what happened. It was just like April, something had changed, and I haven't been able to get into a book since.
Yeah.
And it's
Life,
just,
man. Life is
yeah,
you know, I used to get maybe 10 to 12 novels done a month. Like I would kill it. Like that's when I stayed up to like 2 or 3, So I would go to bed at like midnight and read for 3 hours a night, and it's like I could just and I read on my lunch break. Like I was just reading all the time. And now
that
it's just like,
is so amazing.
yeah, now it's like, man, I haven't, like I said, I haven't read a book in over a year.
Yeah, and that's what's sad is, like, I want more time to read, but then it's like you're juggling so much, and then by the time you're decompressing, it's like you just pass out
You just
or
pass out. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, and then obviously I think we can all agree to the pressure that the writing community puts on where it's like, in order to be a writer, you must be reading
Right.
constantly.
Right.
Listen, if I had 48 hours in a day, I would be doing that because I
Exactly.
loved reading. I love my
Right.
horror, my sci-fi, my fantasies. Like, I am a book hoarder over here.
Yeah.
But man, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Time
And
just gets
don't,
slim.
and anybody who does feel pressured by the community to be reading, like, cause you'll see other people, I read
Look at
this
me.
or I read this and word count, the current read and all this stuff. It's like, that's all good and fine. But they're probably lying just to look better in the community.
Yes.
If we're being honest. And B, that's them and not you. If you don't have time to read, if you can't read, if you can only get one book done a month, whatever, that doesn't mean that you're any less of the community or you're any less of a reader
Yeah.
or writer or fan of fiction, whatever. Yeah, don't buy into any of that hype.
No, don't. We fought for this episode today. I'm just gonna let you know.
Yeah.
We
Oh yeah.
fought tooth and nail for this episode.
Yeah. So yeah,
um,
I about halfway in, my boss pinged me, and we had an emergency at the hospital, so I had to go. And then about 20 minutes after we got on for the second part, Chelsea's boss pinged her, and yeah,
Panicked.
they panicked, and they both seemed to be panic pings, and neither one of us actually had to do anything. So, but we are getting through this episode because that's what we do.
We are
Because we
too.
have 38 listeners, darn it, and we're not going to let those 38 listeners down. You heard?
You heard?
You
Oh
heard
my
me?
gosh, dude. This is like, it's one of those days you're like, okay, world, chill out, everybody.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, everybody chill. It's like I'm like looking over my shoulder, like,
I know. It's
is it
kind
like
of,
is it safe to go out? Is it safe to talk? What's happening?
it's
Yeah.
kind of feeling like that right
Yeah.
now.
One of
I'm
those
like,
days, man.
okay, world, slow down.
Yeah. Just
Um,
chill, man. Y'all, it's Friday. Take a breath. Chill
I'm
out.
going to be acting like it's a Friday, dude.
Oh, dude, me too. I'm just as soon as we're done recording this, man, me and Decky, we're gonna go get some cuddles. Then yeah,
Yes.
then it's just gonna be chill the rest of the day.
Yep. I am
Yeah.
literally going to make a hot decaf with some homemade whipped cream on top. I am going to
Nice.
chug away through a few more tasks just to get to a good stopping point. And then I will probably write for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Because I'm
That's
like, I see this task list and I'm like, yep, that's not getting done today.
yeah.
So,
Not getting done.
no.
That can get done Monday.
Yep, that is a Monday problem. It is
Yep.
not due till Tuesday. It is not a Friday problem.
Yep, that's right.
So, what I was going to ask though.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you're all familiar with the hype around Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, Ankh Storm.
I don't know what the hype is. I mean, I know that it is hyped, but I have no
Yeah.
idea why.
It is I have so many freaking contradictory opinions. It is a cult, okay? And
Yeah.
now, if you are a reader, I am not coming after you, okay? But what I will tell you, I have never picked up the book. I've done extensive research on the series. I have seen some massive red flags about the world building, plot holes, everything. Very, very shallow character development. Do not come for me, people. Do not come for me. All right?
Now,
But
is it Sarah J. Maas that wrote those?
no, Rebecca Yarros.
Okay. Okay.
So it is very, very. I've had true fantasy readers step forward and say it is a very, very heavy contemporary romance storyline put with fantasy elements.
Yeah.
And so, that's why the fantasy elements can feel very, very shallow.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I know there's a couple of listeners on here that actually really enjoy Fourth Wing. I'm not coming for you, okay? But I do want to ask you, Micah, a very, very big question because this is all what I'm coming down to.
Cool. Let's hear it.
Do you believe if you are a dragon rider that you should have a saddle?
Oh. Okay. Well, see, I don't know because now I'm thinking back.
Think
So
of
okay,
flying, fights. I mean, all of that.
right. Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Here's my idea. There's no way you would be able to stay on it. There's just zero way. So my initial thought was if you have that connection, that innate, psychics, whatever you want to call it, connection with the beast, then you shouldn't need one because you guys should be one. But that doesn't account for doing 360s and going upside down, and it doesn't account for all that. You're still you have to think logically too. So unless you're going to build a magic system where you're magnetically connected at the groin with your with your dragon once you mount it, unless you're creating some kind of groin magic, then no, you probably need a saddle. There's my answer.
And guess what? There's no magic system for that.
So what
So
you're saying is in those books, the dragon riders don't
they
need
don't have a
saddles?
saddle. I have somebody I know very well. She's reading it right now, and me and her are messaging privately about it. And she was like, "There's the main character Violet is the only one who uses a saddle because she's super frail." Now, I'm not going to get into her because she is an entire trigger point for me altogether, and I'm not going to go
Interesting.
there.
Okay.
So she's the only one that uses saddle. And I found out through this reader who is giving me a play-by-play because I was like, do it, because I'm actually curious. And this is a fantasy writer and fantasy reader. And she's like, what is happening right now?
Hmm.
But she told me that they're not using saddles. And so then I went to the Reddit threads because I was like, is this real?
Yeah.
And they're not using saddles. And I'm like, logistically, you cannot fight without a saddle. The G-force alone
Right.
on a dragon dive would rip you clean off.
Easily. Yeah.
And
Yeah. There's no way.
and I don't know if you have the softest scales ever on this dragon,
Yeah.
but if you were like diving and you jerked, your skin would be torn
Just
open.
get
I mean,
shredded.
you're talking scales that can, like, usually in true fantasy, scales that, I mean, they withstand swords,
Right.
arrows, all
Right.
of that. I mean, they would go right through breachers. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Breaches. Yeah.
I'm thinking of that. And it's like they would go right through that if you had a really bad jerk or if you were like not dressed appropriately, your skin
Yeah.
would be shredded.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you can't just hold on to a horn and be like, good luck, Captain. Like,
Right. So the question is it ever explained in any way, or is it just
they do it as the dragons, I guess. And this, if you are a reader, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I've understood from the Reddit thread and from the reader, the fantasy reader who is giving me a play-by-play. It is the dragons are very proud and they don't want a saddle. But
okay?
they're
Well, I
also their
get that.
rider. I get that, but
Yeah.
they're bound to a rider, and their rider is, I mean, they have that connection.
Right.
Wouldn't they want their rider to be safe?
To be safe. Right. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it explains? Are there battles in this?
Yes.
There are dragon battles. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell
I'm
you.
like really triggered about this. Like, I found this out this morning, and I was like, logistically, this is impossible. What about long rides? Like, you would need
So obviously the real
couches,
answer
foods. I mean,
the real answer is And we know this, so again, not knocking on it because it's what sells, and if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. But that's fast food fantasy. We talked about that before, but it's fast food fantasy. It's
Yeah.
not having the development and to
There's too many questions.
right. And that's what's so funny is when you're first talking about it, I wanted to say it was like the fantasy version of 50 Shades of Grey. Is kind of what I get from it. Not necessarily that it's that explicit or anything, but that it's that poorly kind of. I don't want to. Again, I'm not knocking anybody.
No,
Gosh,
if
you might
you
say
are
my stuff
reading
is
it,
poorly written.
Yeah, if you are reading it and you love it, I am not here for that. But you are talking to two epic high fantasy writers who take every detail into account.
Right.
And so if you are a romance-driven reader, this is for you and you love
Right.
it. This I'm not knocking on you, okay? Honestly. But as somebody who always questions every epic fantasy book I pick up, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And usually I get those answers because there's a lot of development involved and every detail is covered, down to oiling the saddle and, everything. Like if you were my Dragon Rider query project, I did a lot of redevelopment over and over and over to make sure everything with the dragon and the Dragon Rider bond was logistical, figured out. I even have knots for the saddle that you tie on the slight chance something happens.
Right.
Like everything.
Yeah. Which you should.
These people are bareback on giant dragons.
Yeah.
Freaking swinging swords. I'm like, the G-force alone, people.
Right. Probably just the idea of swinging a sword while you're straddled and not in stirrups, not in a saddle, nothing to hold on to. You'd probably go whoosh and then just like fall off the side. You'd probably just fall off the side because
exactly.
there's nothing to hold on to.
Exactly. The stirrups. The fact that there's no stirrups to hold on
Right.
to. I mean, you're talking like, bro.
Yeah, no reins, nothing for your feet to clench. Yeah. It's
so I just sent you a screenshot of the play-by-play.
Oh, really?
Literally the fantasy reader. And I took a screenshot because I was like, I have to send this to Micah.
That's awesome.
This is literally what she's like, I'm just reading it just to understand the hype. She's like angry reading it.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I'm
awesome.
Like, thank you. So anyways.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. That's funny. I didn't know, and I probably would never pick it up, but I see people read it, and I see everybody talking about it. Of course, it's one of those ones that got TikTok bombed, or not bombed, but TikTok famous.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like, so there's got to be millions of people loving it, but it just does not look like anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And again, if you love it, no hate. Okay.
Right.
Please don't come for us. I am not here to get into a Swiftie battle, okay?
Correct. Exactly.
So that's not, but you are talking to two epic high fantasy writers. We take our details seriously.
Right.
And so that's why when I found that out this morning, I am still very triggered about it because it just is so illogical.
Yeah, it's really funny. That's really funny. And what's also funny is like everybody has their guilty pleasures. Everybody has their things that they like that, I mean, it's like if you have this stance on something, or if you have this caliber of expectation, how in the world are you? Well, it's just because that's it hit whatever need or niche or scratched that itch. And I like it. I do have my fast food fantasy that I like.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm the first to admit, at least once a year. I didn't do it last year and I haven't done it this year because my reading slump is sucky. But every once in a while, I pick up a true trashy vampire romance.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking train wreck trash.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it is so good. And I'm like, yes.
It is a super guilty pleasure, but it scratches that itch, Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's like everybody has that itch. And it's just
we're not like I said, we're not coming for anybody. It's just I
had to ask because from the fantasy perspective and from the logistical reasonings, I was like, I have to see what Micah says about this.
So what's funny is like when you first asked, my first instinct, because you first think, and probably which is why she wrote it like that, your first instinct is there's the bond. There's the bond. So they don't need a, but then we get into we start thinking about it and getting into it logically, dude, there's no freaking way.
There's no freaking way.
Yeah.
Okay. And so anyways, anybody who has read that world, whatever, if there is a reason, or if there's what am I looking for? There's a justifiable reason. anything to kind of back up this no saddle approach besides the pride the dragons have. And I want to know, like, in these battle scenes, like, what is happening? Like, if you have anything to say about that I have missed, that it's a very fine-tuned detail, drop it, because I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
So I want to know the logic and how we've made it 3 books without nobody freaking.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and of course,
it.
without I'm sure many people have questioned it, but the thing is, obviously you don't want anybody to come for her. It's like she's writing what she wants to write. So
yeah, she's writing what she writes right.
Yeah.
No hate
So
there.
it's like, but yeah, at this point, I think it's probably too late for her to say, "Oh yeah, they probably shouldn't use that," and then fix it.
And I'm the first to admit, like, I have kept my mouth shut because I'm like, it is a trend. People love it. You love your thing. It ain't for me. Just like Oktar isn't for me. Like, that is fine. But when we start bringing up the whole fantasy elements and how things work, aka you don't have a freaking saddle for your dragon while you fight and like long flights, dives, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the epic fantasy writer in me is like, that is impossible.
Yeah.
And so that is where that is my pin in this conversation.
Now I kind of want to read it. I kind of want to read it now. just to so we can come back to this conversation and I can
I
say,
don't know if I can possibly pick it up, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm like,
I wonder what the price of the audiobook is. I could listen to it.
If you have Audible, you
Yeah,
can maybe get like a free credit and buy it.
I would like to. I won't spend my credit on it and have to be a free credit or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Those credits are expensive, man. $15 a credit. Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here, people.
Yeah,
I wait for my free credit every month.
Yeah. Well, it's not free because you're paying $15 a month.
This is true.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, it's not free. It's you're paying for that credit.
This is true. This is true.
But sometimes they have deals. So like I go in and look at the deals sometimes. Like if a book, it'll cost 1 credit, but then you click on it and it's like, or it's on sale for $2.99. Like, did you know that? Did you know that you can click on it and then maybe sometimes it's like super duper on sale, but they'll tell you it's still 1 credit?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll pay the $2.99. Thank you. And I'll keep my credit that can get me a $45 book for free.
Free, because some of those bigger audiobooks are like, $45. You're like,
or it's a credit,
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, that was my beef. I had to ask. I feel better.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I think that's a good way to end the conversation. And we'll ask people, if you've read it or if you are reading it, what are your thoughts? Is Chelsea right? Is there something that we're missing? Let us know. I'd be real curious to know.
I'd be real curious. And bigger question, do you think you need a saddle?
Yeah, let us know. Do you think you need a saddle or not if you're going to be riding dragons?
Right. If you're going for a leisurely stroll down the freaking a mile down or a league down, if you want to get fantasy terms, then I guess I wouldn't do a saddle. But if you're, the fighting and all of that, you need a saddle, bro.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, we bring up the legitimate topics, the real questions that demand real answers. Okay. Anyways, that'll do it. I've been Micah.
I've been Chelsea.
This has been not a podcast, not an episode, just 2 authors having a conversation. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave us some love, like, comment, whatever. And we'll catch you next Friday, hopefully.
Yeah. Bye.
Deuces.
Deuces.